If the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, as we've heard this morning, then this Christmas story is far more than just a story, isn't it? It's a narrative of God's plan for salvation if we're willing to receive it. I have a confession to make. This Christmas we didn't have a Christmas tree. I don't know whether it's because some of you have said, Christmas trees are a pagan practice, or whether it's just that it's too much effort to pack it up and vacuum all the floor afterwards. But we had Christmas without a Christmas tree, and it just didn't feel quite right. Now, I'm not saying because of you have to have a Christmas tree for it to be Christmas, but I think that before there were any kind of pagan Christmas practices, God used some trees in his epic story that I think we can point to this Christmas. And I thought I might just share with you, to connect all that we've read this morning, a great folk tale, an allegory that's appropriate at Christmas. Once upon a mountaintop, 3 little trees stood and dreamed of what they wanted to become when they grew up. Probably just like most of us. The first little tree looked out to the stars and said, I want to be a treasure, a chest that will hold jewels and gold and be filled with precious stones. I will be the most beautiful treasure chest in the world. The second little tree looked out at the small stream trickling by on its way to the ocean. I want to travel the mighty waters as a ship and carry the kings and rulers as they conquer in victorious power. And the third little tree looked down into the valley below, where busy men and women worked in a busy town, and said, I don't want to leave the mountaintop at all. I just want to grow tall and strong, the tallest tree in the forest, so that I can point to the glory of God in heaven. I will be the tallest tree in the world. This third little tree hoped to use its life to show the way to God. And so the years passed and the rains came and the trees grew. The sun shone down. And one day, 3 mountain woodcutters came. The first woodcutter looked at the first tree and said, this is a beautiful tree. It's perfect for what I want to do. And with a shining swoop of their axe, the tree fell, dragged off by the first woodcutter. The second woodcutter went to the second tree and said, this is the perfect tree for me. It's exactly what I need. I'm going to cut it down and it will work exactly as I need. And again, the tree lived with its hope of thinking, it's great, I'm going to be a ship. Dragged off. And the third tree, well, its heart sank. I wanted to stand tall and strong forever, pointing to the heavens. And with the stroke of the woodman's axe, the third tree was also cut down, dragged off. The first tree rejoiced when the woodcutter brought her to a carpenter's shop. But the carpenter, instead of fashioning her into a treasure chest, made her into a feed box, a manger. The once beautiful tree was not covered with gold nor with treasure. She was coated in sawdust and filled with hay for hungry farm animals. Oh no. The second tree rejoiced when the woodcutter brought her to the shipyard, but no mighty sailing ship was made that day. Instead, the once strong tree was hammered and sawed into a measly fishing boat, too small and weak to sail the great mighty oceans or even a river. Instead, she was taken to a small inland sea. It gets worse. The third was confused because the woodcutter just cut her into strong beams, left her in the lumberyard. What happened? The once tall tree wondered. All I ever wanted to do was stay on the mountaintop and point to God, and here I am, just thrown in a wood heap. Days, nights, and years passed, and the trees nearly forgot their dreams. But one night, a golden starlight poured over the first tree as a woman placed her newborn baby in the feed trough. I wish I could make a cradle for him, the husband whispered. The mother squeezed his hand and smiled as the starlight shone on the smooth and sturdy wood. No, this manger is beautiful, she said. And suddenly the first tree knew it was holding the greatest and most precious treasure he could ever dream of. Another evening, a tired traveller and his friends crowded into an old fishing boat. The traveller fell asleep as the second tree, now a boat, sailed quietly on the lake. But soon a thrashing thunderstorm arose. The little tree shuddered. She knew she didn't have the strength to carry so many passengers safely through the wind and rain. And the tired man awakened. He stood. He stretched out his hand and said, "Peace, be still." The storm stopped as quickly as it had begun. And the second tree knew that she was not merely carrying some earthly ruler or powerful king, but rather the master of heaven and earth. One Friday morning, the third tree was startled when her beams were yanked from the forgotten woodpile. She flinched as she was carried through an angry, jeering crowd. She shuddered when the soldiers nailed a man's hands to her. With brutal blows of hammer and nail, she felt ugly, harsh, and cruel. But that was not the end of the story. When the morning came and the stone was rolled away, what looked like the moment of greatest defeat had become the place of greatest victory. Death was conquered, sin was paid for, and hope was restored. And every time people looked to the tree now, they wouldn't see failure. They'd see the love of God poured out on the world. And that's got to be better than being the tallest tree in the world. And I think this is where this Christmas, the story meets us, because Christmas is not the story of a baby in a manger with sheep and hay. It's the story of the King of Kings, the Master who came and lived and died that we might be free. Like the trees, all of us carry our hopes and dreams. We imagine what we might become, how God might use us. But Christmas reminds us that God's greatest work is done in ways we would never plan or choose. The manger reminds us that God entered the world in humility. She laid him in a manger. But the boat reminds us that Jesus was Lord over every storm, over heaven and earth. He stood and said, "Peace, be still." And the cross reminds us that even in the darkest moment, the greatest of victories can happen. 1 Peter 2, verse 24 says, "He himself bore our sins in his body on the tree." on the very worst of days, the day Jesus died, he was more powerful and able to overcome every evil that would ever take place. The manger, the boat, and the cross all point us to our salvation and victory in Jesus Christ. The real reason he came. Not to give us a warm, fuzzy feeling at Christmas, to make us get in the Christmas spirit. His reason was to seek and save that which is lost. And when our lives are placed in the Master's hands, even the broken dreams can become lighthouses that shine into the darkness. I think this is the good news of Christmas this year. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us, full of grace and truth.